Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the coffee course. This week we're going to do a one coffee, three methods. So very quickly in coffee, there are three main processing methods for when you take coffee from the tree, and between the coffee going from the tree to a bag and shipped off to a roaster, there's different processing methods. The three main ones are natural, honey, and washed. The natural one is where you take the coffee off the tree, you leave it to dry with the whole cherry around the coffee bean itself, you leave it to dry for a number of days out in the sun, and you turn them, and then you take the cherry away from the bean, and then you bag it up and send it to a roastery. The honey process is where you take you take the cherry from the tree with the coffee bean inside, you take a small bit of the actual cherry away from the bean, not all the cherry, and then you have that dry in the sun for a couple of days as well, and then you ship it off to the roastery. Finally, the washed is where you take everything away, so you put it all into water, it ferments over time, and the cherry falls away from the bean, and then you then dry the bean out in the sun. So it's just solid bean out in the sun, drying, collecting flavors. So the idea between the three of those is that you get different flavors per process. So maybe the natural is more punchy, more sort of punchy, fruity flavors. The wash is a cleaner, and the honey would be a hybrid between both, so the best of both worlds. So today we have that. We have a coffee, the same coffee, three different processes, all done, all dried. I think it's 14 days. So try to keep it as similar as possible, and the only thing that's different between all these, same exact type of coffee, the only thing that's different is the processing. So we have them here brewing for you. This is the washed, this is the honey, and this is the natural. So here we have the three beans lined up for you. We have the washed, we have the honey, and then finally we have the natural. If we go back to the washed here, we see the differences between the three. So the physical differences, it looks like the washed, maybe the light is a bit off, but it looks like the washed is a bit darker. Maybe that's just the roast itself. But physically we can see a lot of silver skin on the washed. Maybe that is also to do with the roast itself. But when you compare the silver skin between the washed and the honey here, there's a little less on the honey process. And then finally on the natural, there isn't much at all. It's fairly uniform throughout. You can see that the coffee beans are similar size, showing just that they're one type of coffee species all the way throughout. So not a lot different between them. I presume the difference will come in the actual tasting of the coffee. Another really cool thing about this coffee is that it is a project between Raw Materials and Caravan Roasters. In 2016, Raw Materials collected enough money from a Kickstarter to set up a washing station for this coffee. And the idea is that they can experiment on coffees like this and processes like this and bring them to us so we can learn basically about it. So thanks to Caravan, thanks to Raw Materials for doing that. And yeah, so now we can learn about it. So what I've done there is I've scooped out the coffee that floats to the top once you add water. So very simple. This is a very simple cup of coffee actually. You grind coffee, put it in there, pour boiling water on it, let it immerse for about 4 minutes. Take the coffee grinds will rise to the top, take them off, let them cool to a nice temperature that we can actually taste without burning our tongues off. And then we will cup them. So cupping is when you just take a spoon, you dip it into your coffee, then you try to slurp as obnoxiously as possible, then spit it out or swallow, and then describe your taste experience. And then you do that over the three different coffees here, or over as many coffees as there are. And the idea is so you don't cross-contaminate, you have to clean your spoon every single time, and then you take a sip of every coffee, and then you see what are the differences. Are there any differences? Is this all just chat and not really anything at all? Or what are the actual differences that we can taste? So yeah, so I will do it, and then I'll also eventually invite Jeff to taste it.
Yes, Jeff is actually here today.
Jeff the camera, I mean. So yeah. So I'll show you. I guess we can do one slurp, but let's not have multiple slurps and watch me choke and cough profusely. There we go. So you just dip in, take a smidgen, slurp profusely, clean the spoon, go to the next. Really interesting. Yeah, the differences really shine in the taste. So yeah.
So in terms of what you're actually tasting there, Enda, do you feel like if you hadn't been told, and obviously you can see right now what they are, would there be a vast difference? You've seen as the one coffee process.
Yeah, you can definitely taste that it is the one coffee. You can taste comparatively, like let's say you gave me a coffee and said that's natural process, I taste it, like yes I can taste natural process, but unless you have it, you know, together, that's when it really shines. You can tell the differences then, and then you can learn. So now, yeah, I'll be able to tell you, but you know, between a honey process and a wash, if you give it, you know, I'd find that difficult, unless you have them side by side, to really tell the difference. Yeah. So if you do you want to try taste some? Or?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. Why not? You know.
There you go.
So remind me again, we're getting, this one is.
This is the washed. The middle is the honey. The middleman between both, and this is the natural.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do something similar here. Maybe I'll just squeeze in behind. Oh, look how much smaller I am.
It's about the size of the fighting the dog, right?
I'm not sure my slurp was obnoxious enough, but I'll give it a go. Wow, big difference straight away. Really big difference. I think one of the things that's probably important to tell people as well is slurping with coffee like this is the equivalent of when you hear people slurping for noodles. It's about the, you know.
Yeah.
It's not. We're not just doing it for the sake of it.
No,
there is
absolutely not.
A part of the process. Yeah. It's like, you know, drinking wine or anything else where you want to get the full characteristics, and you just need to add a little bit of oxygen to what you're doing to get the whole flavor profile.
Exactly. And you also want people to know how
much more fruit and
yeah,
sweetness.
Isn't it?
Hugely different.
Yeah.
Hugely different.
It's mad to see. So we're tasting the same coffees, same species, same roaster, but the process is different, and it does make a huge change throughout them.
I mean, look, 3 great coffees, but by far that would absolutely be my favourite.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Like that, it's just a punch of flavour. We're keeping the cherry around the bean for a longer time, so the idea is that the bean can actually suck more sugars from that cherry as it dries. So you're getting more the terroir or the flavour of the soil that the coffee was grown in. So if it's like fruity blackberries, you know, from Kenya, from Ethiopia, then the idea is you get more of that flavour. But some people argue, well, it can get really muddy, it can get, you know, it's hard to tell the differences, and that's why they might go for a washed one. Yes, you might get those subtle fruity flavours, it's way cleaner, so you can maybe, you know, you can really tell, oh yeah, that's blackcurrant, or oh yeah, that's, you know, that's something else.
I think though what a great exercise here is, like, even if it's different coffees that you have at home, you know, and you buy a particular type of coffee and it's of, you know, the natural process, and you have a coffee that might not be the same coffee, it could be from a different country, but it's going to give you a good sense of dialing in straight off the bat, because this is in its purest form. Really.
Exactly.
You know, you're not going into, do you prefer like V60 or do you prefer French press?
Yeah.
You're getting a very natural expression of what that coffee is. And maybe a good way for you to build your sense of palate, and also to determine what is your preferred style of coffee.
Yeah,
like, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And the nice thing about this is to tell people is that roasters, this is how roasters taste their coffee. They don't do a V60, they don't do any fancy method. They literally go back to basics. Go to the raw, get your coffee in a cup, pour boiling water over it and sip it. And unless or until they can taste the flavors, then they go, okay, this would be really great as a V60, or this would be really great as an espresso. But it's great, you know, you have to go back to basics. So literally anyone can do this, which is nice.
Yeah, it is the simplest of brew methods, in fairness.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you can go to any coffee shop and if they're any way decent, they'll have different varieties of coffee, different processes. They don't have to be the exact same species of coffee, but if you have a natural, if you have a honey, even natural to washed, you'll be able to tell the differences, and it'll just educate you in terms of flavor, if anything else. Like, this is sweeter, this is not sweeter, this is more bitter, this is less bitter, you know, that kind of stuff.
And before you even go near all these new like carbonic macerations and
Exactly.
process
Yeah.
and all these things that are happening in coffee right now.
Yeah.
Which is probably something we'll have to touch on at some point, but it's such a can of worms that, you know, I think for now.
Yeah.
So again, this was Caravan and...
Caravan and raw materials. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thanks, Enda, for bringing us through that.
Yeah, and please try it at home. Go to your local cafe or coffee shop. Get 3 bags of coffee, or 2 bags even. Try it out. All you need is boiling water. Don't burn your tongue though. Enjoy.
See you next week, guys.
Bye.